Something broke through the surface today. Not dramatically, not with the fanfare that you might have imagined when you first put it in the ground. Just the first undeniable sign of it, a slight movement in the soil where before there was only stillness. The small, specific, you did not imagine that evidence that what you invested is alive and responding and reaching upward. And the quality of the feeling it produces is different from the feeling of hoping. Hoping lives in the future tense, in the conditional, in the space of what has not yet been confirmed. What you are feeling right now, this particular variety of quiet, grounded satisfaction, lives in the present tense of something that is actually visibly, undeniably happening. This is what it feels like when the energy phase ends and the building phase begins. And that is exactly what has happened today. Mars has entered Taurus. This shift, the movement of the planet of action and forward momentum from Aries into Taurus, is one of the most consequential transitions in the current astrological calendar, and understanding what it means for the specific, practical, material dimensions of your life changes how you move through the days ahead. Mars in Aries, which you have been living inside for the last several weeks, was the phase of acceleration, of bold claiming, of karmic momentum. It was the energetic season in which decisions made with full conviction carried immediate and extraordinary weight. The phase in which reaching for something you wanted, truly reaching, with the specific quality of someone who has decided rather than someone who is hoping, set something in motion with a force that ordinary time does not provide. Every claim you made during Mars in Aries, every decision you owned fully, every version of yourself you stepped into with genuine conviction, that was not just internal experience. That was commissioning. That was providing the blueprint. Taurus is the sign of the physical world, of material reality, of what is tangible, what can be touched, what has weight and presence in the actual dimensions of daily life. Taurus is the sign that builds slowly, deliberately, and with the specific quality of permanence that separates what lasts from what was only ever temporary. When Mars enters Taurus, the energy that was accelerating through Aries, the claiming energy, the momentum energy, the bold forward motion energy, does not disappear. It changes form. It becomes the construction force, the thing that takes the blueprint and begins laying the foundation. Today, that construction has begun. In the physical dimensions of your life, in the circumstances, the relationships, the resources, the timing, the opportunities, the universe has moved from the energy phase into the building phase. And what is being built was already designed. By everything you did during Mars in Aries. By every decision, every claim, every internal conviction that carried the specific weight of genuine rather than hoped. The blueprint is complete. This is the specific thing that changes how you understand what is starting today. The universe is not beginning something new right now. It is building what was already commissioned. The foundation is being laid in the physical dimensions of your life based on specifications that were set during the energetic phase. The design has been finalized. The construction has started. The only question now is whether you can see the first signs of what is being built, and whether you will show up for the construction phase with the same quality of presence that you brought to the claiming phase. What was claimed is being built into reality. What was decided is being built into circumstance. What was internally known is being built into external evidence. The translation from energy into matter is underway. And Mars in Taurus is the specific force, slow, deliberate, unstoppable, that handles that translation. Not all translations from energy to matter happen on the same timeline. Some of what was set in motion during Mars in Aries will become visible quickly, in days, in the early part of this new phase. Some of it will build over weeks, gradually taking on more definition and more tangible presence as Mars moves further through Taurus. But all of it is building. The foundation is being laid whether or not the visible signs have yet broken through the surface. The construction is underway whether or not the structure has yet reached the level where it is visible to you from your current vantage point. Trust the construction. It is happening in the physical world, in the actual circumstances of your life, with the specific deliberateness and permanence that Taurus always brings to what it builds. What this looks like in the real daily, this is my actual life texture of the days ahead, is worth describing concretely, because Mars in Taurus delivers its building in forms that are quieter than Mars in Aries was and easier to miss if you are still looking for the acceleration energy of the previous phase. In the area of opportunity and purpose, the construction shows up as shape. What was formless, the direction that you could feel but couldn't yet describe, the work that was assembling itself in the preparation zone, the creative project or professional path that had a feeling but not yet a form, begins to have edges, begins to be describable in concrete terms. The opportunity that presents itself under Mars and Taurus is not the sudden, electric, comes from nowhere variety that Aries produced. It is the opportunity that arrives with enough structure around it to be practical, with the specific conditions, the specific timing, the specific arrangement of resources that makes it possible to actually do the thing rather than only imagine doing it. In the area of abundance and material reality, the construction shows up as movement where there was stagnation. The financial or practical situation that has been in one position begins to shift into a different one. Not dramatically, not overnight, but with the specific, perceptible quality of something that has changed direction rather than simply paused. Resources that were unavailable begin to become available. Timing that was misaligned begins to align. The practical elements of what the claiming phase was reaching for begin to organize themselves into an arrangement that allows the reaching to become receiving. In the area of connection and relationship, the construction shows up as tangibility. The person who is being moved by the invisible forces of the previous period, the connection that was activated, the karmic thread that was lit up, begins to show up in visible, concrete, this is actually happening ways. The conversation that was circling its real subject finally lands on it. The person whose intentions were unclear becomes clear. The relationship that was energetically real becomes materially real, in the specific form of presence and action and demonstration that Taurus requires as evidence of what Aries was claiming. In the area of identity and self-expression, the construction shows up as the first external evidence of the internal shift. The version of yourself that was being assembled in the invisible layer during the preparation and claiming phases begins to be visible in how you move through your daily circumstances. Not as performance, as fact. The thing that is different about you now showing up in the choices you make, the boundaries you hold, the opportunities you say yes to, and the ones you decline, in the specific quality of how you occupy the spaces of your own life. The quality of what gets built under Mars and Taurus is specific and worth understanding because it determines how you relate to what is being built. Taurus builds slowly. It does not produce results in the Mars and Aries acceleration timeline. What takes shape under Taurus takes shape with a deliberateness that can be mistaken for slowness by someone who is still calibrated to Aries energy. But the slowness is structural integrity. Every day that the construction advances under Mars and Taurus, it advances in a way that makes what is being built more durable, more genuinely real, more fitted to the terrain of your actual life rather than to the ideal conditions that might have been imagined. What begins to arrive now is not temporary. That is the specific, Taurus-level quality of what is being built in this phase. The opportunity that takes shape now has staying power. The relationship that solidifies now is building on foundation rather than on momentum. The abundance that begins to move now is moving toward a new baseline rather than toward a temporary peak. The version of yourself that begins to express itself now in the concrete details of your daily life is not a phase. It is the genuine emergence of who you actually are, taking real shape in real circumstances. What Mars and Taurus builds, it builds to last. The construction phase requires your conscious participation in a different way than the claiming phase did. The claiming phase required internal conviction, the quality of the decision you made, the fullness of the claim, the genuineness of the stepping into the new version. The construction phase requires something more external, more practical, more grounded. It requires you to take the practical steps when they present themselves, to say yes to what is aligning rather than waiting for something even more perfectly aligned, to show up for the first, small, not yet impressive beginning of what will become significant, to water the sprout without waiting for it to be a tree before you acknowledge it, to recognize the early evidence for what it is rather than dismissing it as too small to count. The person who understands that the construction phase has begun brings a different quality of engagement to the practical dimensions of their life. They act on the opportunity when it appears rather than waiting for the opportunity to become undeniable before they respond. They take the first step toward what is being built rather than waiting for the structure to be further along before they contribute to it. They stay grounded in the material reality of what is taking shape rather than remaining oriented exclusively toward the energetic dimension of what was intended. The construction is happening. The evidence is beginning to appear. And the building goes fastest and produces the most solid results when the person it is being built for is present and active and genuinely participating in the process of bringing it into physical form. The energy phase is over. The building phase has begun. What you claimed under Mars and Aries is being translated into the physical dimensions of your life by Mars and Taurus, slowly, deliberately, with the specific permanence of something that is built to last. The evidence is already starting to appear. Not the full bloom, not yet. The first sign of what broke through the surface. The small, specific, undeniable indication that what was put in the ground is alive and growing. That what was claimed is being built. That what was commissioned is now in construction. Stay present. Stay grounded. Stay engaged with the practical, material, this is my actual life dimensions of what is taking shape. The construction does not require your dramatics. It requires your presence. Your willingness to acknowledge the small signs as real evidence rather than waiting for the large ones. Your participation in the building as it happens rather than your observation of it from a distance. What you claimed is becoming real. Not someday. Now. In the days ahead, in the practical circumstances of your actual life, in the specific, tangible, can-be-seen and touched form that Mars and Taurus always produces. The building has begun, and what is being built was designed by you. Stay present for its arrival.